G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now Spitfires, I just love them, and especially a new Spitfire from Airfix. I just can't resist them. I have to get them. Now this is a rebox. This kit, the Mk.XIV, a Supermarine Spitfire 148, it did come out last year. And there were some complaints with that model, there were some fit issues. There were some problems that were a bit difficult and a bit unusual. And although Airfix kits, okay, they may not be the best kits in the world, but they're usually nice to build. They're usually detailed fairly well, and they're usually quite accurate. I mean, Airfix is in old Blighty, and you know, Spitfires are from there. They should get it right. Well, let's have a look. I want to explore this kit, see if they've improved it from last year, even though Airfix just says this is reboxing with new decals. Who knows? I mean, I just wanted it because it was red. Who could beat a red Spitfire? I mean, wow, okay. But what I'd like to do in this video is, look at this. This is another Spitfire that I have in my collection. Now, this one was moulded 25 years ago. Well, 96 to be precise. Even though the box came out, or the kit was released in 2018. So, this was released in 2018. The kit, the new one, was released in 2020, right? But the moulding in this, it says 96. It's 25 years ago. Quarter of a century. Has Airfix improved any in that time? Have they got their moulding better? Now, it's a slightly different aircraft, I know. They're both basically the longer Griffon-engined aircraft. The wings on this one are not as pretty. But I'm just looking at quality. Spitfire to Spitfire, okay? Has Airfix produced a better model? Now, I know the part count is less in this one. Not only that, the box is bigger. It's ridiculous. Bigger box, less parts, basically the same size aircraft. What's going on? I'd like to explore the difference between two of those, and also do a bit of a trial fit with the new Mk.XIV to see if some of those fit issues and problems that came out last year, if they've been resolved. Does that sound interesting? Yeah? Well, hang in there. Roll the music. So, what's in the box? What do you get for your shekels? Well, if you've never looked at an Airfix kit before, it's pretty well always like this. All the parts are in one bag, although I have taken the clear parts. The clear parts are in a bag. Everything is just squashed into one bag, which they pack them fairly tightly these days, I must say, and we get less parts suiciding, but still this one bag business from Airfix, it's been one of my bugbears for a long time. So, what do you get in the bag? Well, in this case, this kit has 4 sprues. Nicely moulded detail on the wings. Now it might be a little bit thicker, a little bit more trenchy than your Tamiya and your Hasegawa kits. I know, but the Airfix kits are designed so that you can use their Humbrol acrylic paints and slap it on with a hairy brush and still have panel lines. This is the thing, they've always moulded their kits slightly more defined panel lines so that you could hand brush them. At least that is the theory. That is what I've been told. So, parts, flash free, nice modern moulding, plenty of detail. You get a full tub with this one, all the detail for the tub. You don't get that in the older one. Now, the annoying thing is they've done this big cutout here, and that is this piece that goes over the top of basically the fuselage there. Now that was a bugbear in the release last year, that this didn't fit and there were huge problems, that it was basically not wide enough. I'm going to do a dry fit shortly and we'll see if they've actually improved that. Straight out of the box I'm just going to cut the parts out and we'll see if they actually fit together. But again, look, those panel lines are fine. For a model made in the 2000s, that is acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And your parts are clean, they are crisp, there is nothing to complain about. Again, plenty of parts, lots of detail. The new Airfix mouldings are quite good, at least in my opinion. The pilots, they've improved a lot. The old pilots are pretty bloody horrible. These pilots, I don't know if you can see it. These pilots are not bad. They at least look more like humans. And we actually get arms that you can set. And here you've got the rudder tail pieces. This is your tub. Interior, instead of being moulded on the fuselage halves like it was done in the old days, you actually get this whole tub area that you build up and you slide it in. That's very much how a lot of the modern kit manufacturers, they do their interiors now. So it's nothing blindingly new, but it's new for Airfix. Again, panel lines, look, they're fine. Plenty of detail there. Tons of rivets you can count. All the recent Airfix kits have very nice decals. Beautiful. I believe they're printed by Cuttergraph, but it doesn't say so on this one. But they're certainly that kind of that quality, and I have had no problems with them at all. In fact, some of the Reebok kits, like that Hawker Fury, which the kit's pretty dreadful. It's it's ancient, but the decals were really good, so they kind of improved the kit. So yeah, you get that. Now in this particular release, you've got this G-Fire, which is a racing version, and we've also got a Canadian version. So a couple of civilian Spitties from after the war. So that's rather nice. It's a nice change. Now Airfix instructions are pretty well the same these days. You get your blurb in various languages on the front, and that will give you basically a little history about the vehicle, the aircraft, and then you get the sort of basic specifications, how big it was, how much armament it had, that sort of thing. So it's a bit of interesting reading. Their instructions these days don't have much in the way of text, in fact virtually none, because they're designed to sell for an international market, so everything is pictographs and you're supposed to try and figure it out. I really love the old Airfix kits where there were a bit of an exploded drawing actually, and the parts were in the order you built them, and the instructions were quite a big long novel, very much like this, and they would say, take the left widget and attach it to the right whatnot, blah blah blah, and you'd actually learn what all the things were in the kit. You don't get that anymore, you just get these pretty pictures. They're quite good though, I mean they're easy to follow, and Airfix marks in red what you've previously done as you're moving along, so that assembly there was done back there and so on and so on. Now you build up the entire tub here, which is rather nice, and that's going to go into the fuselage. So it's pretty well how most of the modern kits are built or designed these days. There's your pilot, here he is, and they usually put someone's face on there. I think it's someone who actually had a bit of input in designing the model, so they get a little bit of a a shout out, so to speak. Their face is used for the pilot, only in the drawings. The actual molded one doesn't look as silly as that, no. So your tub goes in, and that just goes into the fuselage, already made up. So it'd be interesting to know what the tolerances are like for that. Won't know until I fully build it. You get options that are green usually, means cut this out. So in this case you can cut out the little side door, and they give you an optional part you can put in if you want to have that door folded over. Now this is this part which is a bone of contention that fits here across the two fuselage halves. We'll see shortly if it actually fits on this particular moulding, and if it was really just a moulding process error and it wasn't really an engineering problem by Airfix, as many have said. Detail in the wings, they put the little rings now. They used to be moulded in, but they put the little ring in there, which is basically the walls of where the wheels sit. Now all Airfix kits, as far as I know, give you wheel up and wheel down options. You can have your aircraft flying, you can have your aircraft sitting on its legs. They'll always give you that. Now there's this big strengthening bar here, which is rather interesting, that they've put in. It only serves the purpose of making sure the dihedrals are kept, and it also clicks into, as far as I can see, there's some little sections here on the fuselage halves. So they've given it more strength as to stop the wings from drooping and the whole thing sit together. It's rather a nice bit of engineering there, Airfix. You get the option that you can have your tail elevators up and down. You can have your rudder moving around. You've got all the usual things. Airfix has pretty well always done that, except very early kits, of course, were all fixed. And your ailerons here, they attach nicely and can be adjusted. Parts move on. We're putting on various radiators and scoops and things, and that's all pretty well typical. Now we're getting an option of two different things, A and B versions here, because you've got either the A version, which is going to be the red Spitfire, which is basically that racer one, and it still had gun mountings. But the B version, which is going to be the Canadian aircraft, it'll have the tips of the wings cut off, so basically a much faster low altitude aircraft, and the gun port area is just capped off, so it's just there's no guns on it at all. It's a toothless Spitfire, yes. Now here we go, here's your options. Do you want your wheels up? This is how you go, and they'll provide the parts, and they'll provide special wheels to do that. They're usually slightly cut down wheels that'll fit in the wheels, so you have specific parts to create your wheels up look. Now if you want your wheels down, yep, there's a whole series of parts to do that as well, and they'll always fit, and they're always good. I've never had a problem with those at all. Airfix is always good that way. Now your prop in this is fully molded with all 5 blades together. It makes it so much easier to align it. We have a look at the older kit, you had to actually put all the blades in individually, which meant you had to get it right. Otherwise you'd have wonky blades and your angles weren't correct. Now you get cockpit open or cockpit close, whichever one does which. Well, that would be cockpit open there, because we've got the door. There's a little door there, so that's designed. Now they give us separate glass pieces, clear plastic, right, to give to make sure that the fit will be perfect. So they don't just give you one part, hope it's going to work for both. No, they've given you 2 different. This part here I think is different. Yep, because that's 02 and that's 01, whereas this is just basically 10, part 10. So they give you 2 different parts there depending on what you want to do, which is quite nice. Quite nice indeed. And there we go, and then you get into your paint guide. And it's typical with Airfix, it's just a very simple set of drawings. They'll give you Humbrol callouts. In fact, all the way through the kit there's callouts all the way through telling you what colour to paint things. There'll be little numbers everywhere, and those numbers in a circle mean the part number, but these numbers are the Humbrol colours. So usually I go through my my Humbrol chart, and I just go through and mark those all the way through just to double check I've got all the colours in my paints for painting it. So there's our red one, and that's 1988. Yeah, it's quite late for a Spitfire. Yeah, so that one is the G-Fire from Duxford, Cambridgeshire in England. Okay, and there's a bit of a blurb there. Oh, here we go. The G-Fire was mostly fitted with 4 gun barrels. Yeah, because I've had a few people rivet count already saying, it's wrong, it's supposed to have 4 guns, not 2. But Airfix is saying this kit only contains 2, and it's recommended for the more experienced modelers. They can stick in another one. Well, there you go. That's a funny one, isn't it? Airfix saying, look, we couldn't be bothered. We just couldn't be bothered putting in those extra bloody cannons there, you know. And if you're really that worried about it, if it really gets up your coit, right, go and buy some aftermarket and glue them in and shut the bloody hell up. Oh, goodness me, Airfix. It's a bit sloppy. All right, this is a Canadian one, and it's from 1949, just after the war, and it's just basically a CFGMZ Canada. And as I said, the wingtips are cut off. That usually means more of a low altitude, faster one, I think, because as they go higher up, I think they want more pointy tips. I think that's how it is. If I've got that wrong, let me know. I often get those sort of things mixed up. And the colour range, again, in this one, it's basically aluminium with a bit of blue, so that's quite pretty too. I mean, if I enjoy building this kit and really enjoy building the red one, I might get get another one and do this. Or if the kits are exactly the same, I could do that colour scheme on last year's moulding, because it's the same kit, apparently. All right, so that is the basic look at what you get from an Airfix kit. The clear parts, well look, I'm not going to take them out of the bag, okay, but usually Airfix clear parts these days, at least, they're fairly good. They're fairly easy to see through. There's not much distortion. They're what you expect. You know, it is the quality we expect these days, so I'm not really going to dwell on that much. There's usually nothing wrong with Airfix clear parts. All right, let's have a look at what was going on 25 years ago. So going back in time, quarter of a century ago, this is what an Airfix Spitfire, well, it didn't look like this because it wouldn't have a red box, but the contents, let's get to that, the contents are going to be what you got. Admittedly, the moulds have had 25 years to wear out, and we're not using that Airfix plastic that we were using back then, which was a lot stiffer and a lot nicer. Now you are going to get the new paint guide, because they update the instructions to give you that, which is nice. So you get the modern instructions for the painting, which is lovely. Okay, that's because it's a Reeboks. Okay, and you're going to get new cartograph decals. Okay, you don't get that. That's something I bought with a little mask. Now you will get parts that suicide. This happens. This is unfortunately one of the problems with the old Airfix kits, and with some of the new ones, is that parts tend to disappear off the sprue. So best to rescue those and make sure you've got those nice and safe before you go too far. So the new Airfix kit has 1/3 more parts, but it had twice as many sprues. We only get 2 sprues in this one. This is 1996, and what do we get? Well, we only got 2 sprues. Yeah, so let's see, what do you get? Now our panel lines are a bit deeper, they're a bit thicker. We have no rivets that I can see. Oh, there's a few. Some people have basically said Airfix has gone rivet crazy in the new kits, and there's just too many of these recessed rivets. Maybe, who knows? But there's detail here. I mean, that's not too bad. Your fit won't be as sharp as the new kits, because these wouldn't have been CAD designed. And we are getting a little bit of flash here and there. So, you know, you have that. But I think Airfix has done a reasonable job to keep these mouldings fairly clean. And even though, as I said, I bought this 2018, and yet it is a, you know, now a 25-year-old kit, that is still fairly good. And this still should build up fairly nice. But again, it depends. If you've grown up with just Tamiya kits and Hasegawa kits, Airfix is going to feel very alien to you. Whereas I'm at home with Airfix because that's what I built all the way through my youth. Now again, the fuselage. Panel lines are a bit thicker than the new one. Again, there's less tiny details. It's, you know, a little simpler in its approach, but it's still a fairly nicely moulded kit. Now you don't get that silliness of the big chunk out of here. You're getting a fuselage all the way through as we would normally expect. So you're putting it together the way we would normally put a fuselage together, just 2 halves. You have got to put your 5 blades into your prop, so you've got to get that right. Yes, and that can be fraught with disaster if you get them back to front or upside down, or you know, you don't actually get them angled right. Usually it's a good idea to build yourself a little jig on a bit of styrofoam or something and measure it out with a protractor and then put your blades in. But really, it's not too bad. You don't get as exciting an interior. You basically just get, you know, the back firewall there, and a seat and your pedals, and that's it. That's all you got back then. You will get wheels up and you will get wheels down options. That is always happened with Airfix. Now a very quick look at the instructions. Looks pretty well the same, doesn't it? Looks like our recent released Mk.XIV. Well, that's only because basically Airfix has printed it that way. It's not till you get inside, and this is a lot older looking. This is what the kit's instructions look like. Merely they've put it into this booklet form, and it's, you know, it would have been a big fold out or something like that back then, but the drawings are a little more cartoonish, less lovely CAD. So you start off with building that prop, making sure that you get all the blades correctly angled. It still should be fairly good. And you straight away fuselage, wings, you've got your canopy options. I think they discuss it here somewhere, but you certainly would have that. You certainly could have the canopy open. You have the door, which in this case you either glue the door in or you basically have the door hanging down. You don't have to cut anything away, which is interesting. You build up your wheels on their on the landing gear, and then yes, you can do it wheels down or you can do it wheels up. Pretty well constant for Airfix kits. And that's about it. Put your cannons in, away you go. Middle, you're going to get all 4 cannons on this one. And that's it. Very simple. So you've only got, let's say, you've basically got 1/3 more parts, or in this case, you know, you've only got 89 parts to put together. Much simpler, much easier to build. It shouldn't be too bad. And the quality wasn't bad back then. Hasn't quite got the detail of the new Airfix kits, but these old kits were still fairly good for their day. And if Airfix has taken the time to keep the moulding clean and keep the flash down, there was a little bit of flash in this kit, but it wasn't too bad. Certainly not as bad as that dreadful bloody Hawker Fury that I built. I dropped the ball on that one, but go back and watch that video, my complaints there. But as far as Spitfires go, this Mk.XXII is still a good kit. Alright, let's do a dry fit of its fuselage and wings, and we'll compare it to a dry fit of the new Mk.XIV, and that'll be the acid test. How do they click together? Alright, I've got two Spitfires here, and let's look at the old one first. Now the fit wasn't too bad actually. The wings clicked together fairly well. They required very little fiddling, and that shape's quite good. You do have to put in this little part here as a sort of a structural piece that fits in there. That had to be glued in, because when I first put that in, this was all wobbly here at the back. Once that's in and basically you've got that clicked, your wing roots are fairly good. And in fact, all the way along the fuselage, I know I've got tape in the way, but believe me, as I was putting it together, I was quite surprised how well this old kit fits together. So you would have very minimal problem of basically just gluing that up, and it's going to require a tiniest bit of putty, and with a bit of luck, you shouldn't need much at all in those wing roots. Once you've got that structural piece in, if you forgot to put that in, you'll have a devil of a time. But it's a nice kit, fits really well. It's a much better fit than the Academy Spitfire that I built a few years back. So really, for a 25-year-old kit, that looks great. Now the detail, this is where they're going to look a little different. Oops. The detail, well, yes, the new Airfix kit is just that bit nicer. I don't know if it comes up on camera, but the new Airfix kit has got a lot more rivets, that's for sure. Admittedly, they're slightly different aircraft, I know. Panel lines, well, it's hard to say. There's really not much in it. And in fact, if you didn't know, and if I just handed you the two kits, you'd probably say, well, the plastic's the same, because it is. And they're both Airfix Spitfires. So, really, how far have we come in 25 years? Don't know. Let's do the acid test now and see if that part that just fell on the floor, if that part which had all the people jumping up and down and complaining fits over the cull here, see if that actually fits. Now, it is hard to show you just in video because the pictures are fairly low definition, but there is a lot more detail in the new kit. It is much crisper. It's subtle, so it is nice. It's just a little bit better. The fit though, now here's something interesting. You've got this fantastic device in here. There's these little bars that I had to add inside there. And they make sure that this won't come out. It literally, once you've clicked it in, you can't take it out. The only way to actually get the wings off again is to lift it up through there, see? Now that mechanism is all well and good, but here's the problem. I've got those wings lined up correctly. I mean the gun barrels line up, so that's as far as it goes there. It's locked there. I've made sure that they fit up here to the tips, so you know they're within tolerance for that. But my wing roots, they're certainly bigger than in the older kit. I have about 1/2 mil to almost 3/4 of a mil wing root there that I'm going to need to fill. So and there's no bending because it's so fixed. It's got the dihedral locked, which is good, so you can't accidentally make the thing look ridiculous. There's no way I can actually work that up and tighten it. So I'm actually going to need filler on the new kit, whereas the old kit I probably won't need any, or hardly any. Now, the thing that everyone screamed and shouted about was this little part here, and the fact that Airfix had put this big gouge in here, and a lot of people said it didn't fit, it was no good, it was hopeless, oh, you know, dear, it was just the end of the world. Well, there's mine. And just to show you I'm not cheating, it fits on that side too. Okay, there is no problem at all. It is the right width and it's fitting fine all the way around. So I don't know, I suspect they had a moulding issue, or maybe the way the part was fitting on the sprue, and they have quickly addressed that after all the screaming and shouting last year, and they've made sure that part, the way it is filled on the sprue and the way that the maybe it comes out, it's not going to get distorted and bent out of shape. So there you go. It has some little clips in there. I'm not sure if they had those before. I'll probably check back on my other kit and I may look at that at a future date, but that's not really what I'm worried about here. I just wanted to know, did it fit? As long as I've got everything lined up, because my fuselage halves are slightly out. There we go. It does fit nicely. Now, there's a bit of a click feel to putting this one together, which is different to the older kit. The older kit was, as kits were back then, you've really got to watch your tolerances with your tabs and everything. There's a bit more movement, but you just line everything up and you're away. Whereas this tends to go click, 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 and it basically just all clicks together. And I say those wings are not drifting. They're sitting exactly at the dihedral they need to be, and it all fits together very nicely. So there's definitely more engineering in the new kit. There's more detail in the new kit, but honestly, I can't see what the fuss is about. There's nothing wrong with a 25-year-old Airfix kit. So how about that? That's quite a surprise. So I don't know. Okay, it's not a Tamiya kit. It's not a Hasegawa kit. It's an Airfix kit, and I'm only comparing apples with apples. So I'm happy. For me, if I'm going to build the old one and we're going to build the new one, they're equally as good. So unless there's something I'm missing here, unless there was an update to that older kit that I'm unaware of, whereas all the research I've shown says it isn't, and even on the side of the box, Airfix does say 1996 mould, 2018 release, and on this one it says 2019 mould, 2020 release. So they are doing that now. They're being very transparent about how old the kits are. But look, an old Airfix Spitfire, nothing wrong with it. And there's also C-Fires and a number of other Mark 1s and Night 5s. They're probably all reasonably good. The new ones, you're going to pay more. They're a little better. They're nicely engineered and they got a few more rivets. But honestly, you could save yourself money and build the old Spitfire and have a lot of fun and still get a very, very good result. Anyhow, that's my conclusion to my little experiment. So there you go. That's it. That's all I got to say. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll have a look at some other Spitfires I've got down the track. I've got old Edward and the new Edward. Would you like to see that as well? Maybe there's a difference there between the mouldings. Who knows? I think it's just a little bit evolutionary rather than revolutionary. So I'll leave you with that. Goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.